알맹이만 리필하자는 의미에서 그래서 무포장 제품들을 판매하고 있습니다. 좋은 점은 자기가 원하는 만큼만 살 수 있다는 거예요. 비우고 헹구고 분리하고 이런 과정을 거치지 않아도 되는 거죠. 저희 손님들이 자기 용기를 사용해서 새 플라스틱을 줄인 이제 1년 결과를 내보면 거의 10만 개 정도 플라스틱 공병을 10만 개 정도 아끼거든요. 그래서 이런 가게들이 많아지면 새 플라스틱 사용도 줄이고 쓰레기가 될 물건들도 구조해서 재활용시킬 수 있는 거죠. 우리가 플라스틱을 배출한 다음에 얘들이 어떤 루트를 타고 어떻게 재활용이 되거나 버려질까 이걸 직접 눈으로 보고 싶어하는 쓰레기 덕후들이 이제 저희 주변에 많아요. 보시고 난 전후가 다르다. 굉장히 쓰레기를 보는 자세, 쓰레기를 어떻게 줄일지에 대해서 획기적으로 자기 자세가 바뀌게 됐다. 이런 말씀 되게 많이 해주셔서 힘을 내서 매달 하고 있습니다. 사실 낯서니까 힘들어하시는 것 같아요. 낯서니까 더 불편하고 힘들다고 생각하실 텐데 여기 오실 때는 가벼운 마음으로 오시면 됩니다. 저희 손님들이 기증을 해주신 깨끗한 용기를 저희가 한 번 더 소독을 해요. 그다음에 쫙 무료로 비치하기 때문에 그냥 오시면 되고요. 오셔서 이제 무게를 재는 방법들은 저희가 다 설명을 해드릴 거예요. 나는 알맹이만 담는 그리너입니다.
It's go time.
Tension is building at and near the presidential residence. The compound is being heavily fortified as another warrant has been approved for the arrest of President Yoon. And the political uncertainty is dragging down economic sentiments at home, according to a recent assessment by a state-run think tank. The world's major tech show has returned in Las Vegas. Showcase for AI technologies that can apply to our everyday lives, and the much-anticipated keynote speech of NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang. It's January 8th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Min. We start with the latest on the prolonged political chaos after the president's sudden declaration of martial law. A second arrest warrant for the president has been authorized, but when and how it will be executed remains unclear. Our An Sung-jin is standing by live on site to give the details. Sung-jin, did the authorities proceed with the second arrest warrant?
Hello, Jungmin. No, not yet. The second arrest warrant was issued on Tuesday evening, but we haven't seen much movement here yet, signifying that today may not be the day that investigators decide to arrest President Yoon. It is suspected that both the court, the CIO, and the police have not disclosed the exact extension period of the warrant, so the Presidential Security Service isn't able to prepare beforehand like the first attempt. Though it has been difficult to predict when exactly an arrest will happen, pundits have been saying that it may take place within this week.
The first attempt to arrest the president has failed. The CIO must be planning things a bit more thoroughly this time.
Right, Jungmin, the CIO has said that it would be putting its utmost efforts into ensuring that the second arrest attempt will be the final one. The head of the CIO had stated that they are ensuring cooperation from the police, and these investigators further said that they will have to increase the number of personnel for the second attempt. However, the Presidential Security Service has also been upping its security measures, including the installation of barbed wires and blocking the entrance with vehicles. Multiple security personnel are also guarding the entrances to the residence. Once the arrest happens, and transporting President Yoon out of the residence also remains as another critical question.
Sung-jin, protesters have been gathering near the presidential residence for about a week now. What's it like out there at the moment?
Jungmin, I've been standing here nearby the presidential residence for the past couple of hours, and I've been seeing something very surprising. People have been camping out here overnight yesterday, and some even say they're going to be standing all night today as well. Protests for both sides took place here throughout the afternoon with thousands gathered, but those that are demanding Yoon's impeachment have moved to a different area in Seoul. Conservative groups, including the Freedom Union, have gathered here to show support for President Yoon, waving Korean and American flags. They've been shouting things like, "Let's save Korea and arrest Lee Jae-myung," the main opposition leader.
I've been coming here for a week now. Though people may have been surprised by the martial law decree at first, I felt a significant message was being sent. Such a profound message gave me the conviction to come out here.
But also people who've been pushing for Yoon's immediate arrest, including the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions, have also been waving placards and shouting for the CIO's immediate and prompt execution of the arrest warrant.
I came here to voice for Yoon's impeachment. There are too many people supporting him, and I couldn't stand for it any longer. I am here to overhaul the wrongdoings still present in the political sphere.
Though I'd say it's generally peaceful out here, it doesn't mean that there haven't been any clashes at all, from small and large quarrels and bickering to physical clashes with the police from the conservative groups. Things have been slightly agitated on the streets over here. The police have set up barricades to prevent the two sides getting into fights and have also placed more personnel while providing live traffic information. That's all I have for now. Back to you, Jungmin.
That was our An Sung-jin reporting live from the president's neighborhood of Hamnam-dong. The president and his legal team are refusing to comply with the second arrest warrant. Instead, they say President Yoon will stand trial if indicted, or if an arrest warrant with detention is issued by a different court. Our political correspondent Shin Ha-young has the details.
Amid the investigators' second attempt to arrest President Yoon Suk-yeol, his legal team reaffirmed that it will refuse to comply with the arrest warrants issued by the Seoul Western District Court. During a press conference on Wednesday, a lawyer for the president, Yoon said Yoon would comply with an indictment or issuance of an arrest warrant with detention from a different court.
The president will stand trial if the CIO indicts him or requests a warrant with detention from another court.
However, the lawyer added a condition. These should not be sought at the Seoul Western District Court, as the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials is outside its jurisdiction. He said the agency must go through the Seoul Central District Court, adding that requesting the arrest warrant to the Western District Court can only be seen as, quote, warrant shopping, meaning the CIO is picking courts likely to approve warrants. The Seoul Western District Court issued 2 arrest warrants with temporary detention, allowing questioning for 48 hours for the president, and dismissed Yoon's appeal. An arrest warrant with temporary detention can be issued if there is sufficient reason to believe that a suspect has committed a crime or if there is a concern the person may not show up for questioning. However, an arrest warrant with detention requires stricter conditions, such as a suspect being a flight risk or if there is a risk they will destroy evidence. Earlier, the opposition raised suspicions that President Yoon was hiding to avoid the temporary arrest warrant. However, the lawyer refuted the allegations, calling it a false manipulation of events.
I went to the presidential residence yesterday evening and met the president. This is really unbelievable, false propaganda and a manipulation of events.
Regarding the impeachment trial at the Constitutional Court, lawyer Yoon stated that the president will be able to attend once the issues such as the withdrawal of the insurrection charges are resolved and the necessary conditions are met for him to speak. He also noted that there is no limit to the number of times the president will attend. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
At the National Assembly this afternoon, 2 bills aimed at initiating special investigations into allegations against President Yoon and First Lady Kim Gun-hee have failed to pass the latest National Assembly vote. Our correspondent Lee Si-hoo joins me here for more. Si-hoo, tell us the result of the vote.
Right, Jung-min, today of the 300 lawmakers, 198 voted in favor of the special prosecutor bill targeting President Yoon, while 101 voted against it and 1 abstained, just 2 yes votes short of passing it. While for the bill against the First Lady, 196 voted in favor, 103 voted against, while 1 vote was deemed invalid. Now, this means the bills are now officially lapsed. The opposition-led bill sought to investigate the insurrection charges against the president for his brief imposition of martial law and alleged stock manipulation by his wife. Now, the bills were vetoed by acting President Choi Sang-mok last week and sent back to the National Assembly for a revote. For the bills to pass after Choi's veto, they required at least a majority attendance and 2/3 approval of those present, which is a higher threshold than the numbers needed for the initial approval by the Assembly. Assuming full support from the 192-member PAN opposition, the bills required 8 ruling party members to rebel against the ruling party's consensus today, which was to reject the bill. I must also note that this was the 4th vote on the bill targeting the First Lady after repeated vetoes by the president and the acting president. Now, ahead of the vote today, the Vice Minister of Justice appealed to the lawmakers on behalf of the government.
The government is not opposing the system of a special counsel itself. But first, political objectivity must be secured in the counsel appointment process. I ask that you consider this as you, once again, make a careful decision.
Now, that echoes the reasonings behind the veto by the acting president.
Right, so acting President Choi cited specific reasons for his veto last week. He said, for one, there's a risk of, quote, violation of constitutional principle in these bills that only grants the opposition lawmakers the authority to recommend members for the special counsel. Take a listen.
I have pondered countless times whether it is a responsible attitude to promulgate bills whose unconstitutionality has not been resolved, and while concerns remain on the national interest and the basic rights of the people.
Che further urged the rival parties to once again negotiate on the details so that the people could ultimately accept the results of the investigation.
We have not seen such negotiations taking place since. What are the opposing stances of the rival parties?
Yes, Jung-min, so the DP has since denounced the government and the ruling party for, quote, going along with Yoon's insurrection attempt, adding that similar methods for council appointments were ruled constitutional by the Constitutional Court of Korea in the past. Now here's the DP floor leader from earlier today.
Refusing the appointment of a special counsel to look into the insurrection means not investigating or punishing people, even if they seriously violate laws and the Constitution. This is a declaration that they're aligning with the insurrection.
The PPP, on the other hand, argues the DP is using the potential prosecutor issue to achieve inappropriate political objectives. Listen in.
The DP is pushing for the two special prosecutor bills to wipe out the Conservative Party. They are trying to list an infinite number of PPP members and right-wing conservatives as subjects of investigation to devastate us.
In addition to the special prosecutor bills, the PPP decided to reject 6 other bills that the government also objected to. They included changes to the Grain Management Act affecting the farming industry and changes to the testimony rules at the National Assembly.
Shihu, what do we expect to see from the rival parties in the upcoming days?
Right, so with the rejection of bills tonight, the DP immediately burst out in protest and said it will work on a new version of the bill starting tonight, with the goal of reintroducing it tomorrow. The party added that it will try to make necessary changes to better meet the request of the ruling party in order to prioritize the bill's fast approval. It hinted at possible changes to council appointment rules and the scope of the investigation, while the PPP warned the DP to cease its repeated pushes for impeachment and special prosecutors and instead take a look into the issues involving the livelihood of the people. Now we expect to see the rival parties continue to lock horns over the possible arrest of President Yoon throughout this week, and so potential negotiations or revisions to bills rejected today seem unlikely anytime soon.
Our National Assembly correspondent Lee Shu, thank you. A state-run think tank has shed concerning light on the broader impact of Korea's political unrest on its economic sentiment among households and businesses alike. Choi Min-jung explains.
The South Korean economy is experiencing mounting downward pressure amid domestic political uncertainty. The Korea Development Institute said in a report Wednesday that South Korea's economic sentiments have dropped significantly due to the recent political unrest following President Yoon Suk-yeol's short-lived martial law declaration on December 3rd. Household and corporate sentiment indices have fallen further than during President Park Geun-hye's impeachment in 2016. The Composite Consumer Sentiment Index declined by 9.4 points over 3 months in 2016, whereas it dropped by 12.3 points in just 1 month during the recent turmoil. The recent Business Survey Index also fell comparatively sharper than during Park's impeachment. As figure suggests, an expert says the current situation is much more uncertain than it was during the Park Geun-hye impeachment proceedings.
Currently, many of the problems that Korea is facing concerning the impeachment is outside the Constitution or somewhere where it's not really very well defined by the Constitution. So in some sense, we are in a very uncertain ground that is basically increased not only political but economic uncertainty.
The KDI also noted that economic recovery is being delayed by slowing production growth. The construction sector has continued to struggle with weak performance, while industrial production in mining and manufacturing receded in recent months, despite high growth in semiconductors due to declines in automobile production. Despite the recent political turmoil, however, financial market indicators such as exchange rates and stock prices have remained relatively stable. Experts also expect some recovery in economic sentiment, but believe it'll be harder the longer the current political turmoil lasts. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
January 27th of this year will be a public holiday. This comes as part of efforts to encourage private spending by creating a 6-day Lunar New Year holiday this year, starting from the weekend prior to the Monday of January 27th, all the way to the 30th. The decision was reached during talks between government officials and ruling party lawmakers at the parliament, where they addressed ways to ensure economic stability amid dwindling domestic demand and the rising risk of Trump tariffs. With regard to the latter, acting President Choi Sang-mok has pledged weekly pan-ministry discussions. Meanwhile, interim chairman of the People Power Party, Kwon Young-se, spoke of efforts to work on legislation in support of the local economy. On the corporate front, both Samsung Electronics and LG Electronics expect a substantial drop in operating profits for the final quarter of 2024 amid soaring expenses but slowing demand. Lee Yoon-jin has more.
Samsung Electronics reported Wednesday that the company's estimated operating profits for the October to December period came to 6.5 trillion won, which is around $4.5 billion. That's a decline of nearly 30% compared to the previous quarter. The chipmaker said this was due to lower global demand for PCs and mobile phones, as well as higher R&D costs. Revenue for the fourth quarter rose 10.7% to 75 trillion won, or $51.6 billion on year. For 2024, the annual operating profit came to 32.73 trillion won, or around $22.5 billion, up nearly 400% from the previous year. Meanwhile, LG Electronics also reported on Wednesday that the company's estimated operating profits for the fourth quarter came to 3.43 trillion won, or $2.4 billion, down 6.1% compared to the year before. The company said its sluggish earnings were due to global economic uncertainties. However, the country's leading home appliance maker recorded 87.74 trillion won, or $60.33 billion in annual revenue for 2024, marking a new record for the highest annual revenue in the company's history. Both companies plan to release their final earnings results later this month. Lee Yoon-jin, Arirang News.
The Consumer Electronics Show is set to be the world's largest tech show, during which big-name companies and their smaller counterparts head to Las Vegas in January to share their innovative approaches to life in the foreseeable future. For more on those innovations, our correspondent Moon Hae-ryun files this report.
The wait is finally over. CES, the first big annual tech event of 2025, officially kicked off today and is expected to draw hundreds of thousands of people. With the event due to run until Friday local time, more than 4,500 exhibitors have gathered to showcase and set the tone for this year's tech innovations under this year's theme, Connect, Solve, Discover, Dive In. It explores how new technologies can connect humanity and contribute to solving global issues, thoroughly explored over the past 2 days prior to the event through press conferences and keynote speeches. From the Consumer Technology Association's Tech Trends report to NVIDIA's Jensen Huang returning to CES for the first time in 8 years, the prevalence of AI is clear through much of the tech on display. This could mean a number of things for South Korea's tech giants. Huang revealed to the press that he plans to meet with SK Group's chairman Choi Tae-won, with SK hynix being NVIDIA's biggest supplier of HBM chips. He also went on to emphasize Samsung's potential in supplying HBM chips to NVIDIA, stating that the firm will eventually succeed, no question. That being said, this event has gone from being called the Consumer Electronics Show to being branded just CES, with the president of the CTA saying this reflects how the event has come to be something of a consumer everything show instead. For this year's CES, the CTA laid out some particular areas of interest this year, such as digital coexistence, human security, community, and longevity. New programs this year also put a spotlight on 3 tech categories: mobility, quantum computing, and energy transition. Quantum computing was described as the next big development to come by the CTA. If the 2020s is the intelligence decade, then the 2030s will likely be the quantum era. There are exciting developments for mobility too, particularly as connectivity and sustainability become increasingly important, and the same applies to energy transition. Another highlight of CES is the Innovation Awards program that honors what are deemed outstanding innovations in design and engineering. And there are some new categories added this year, such as fashion tech and pet tech. Fashion tech is usually associated with smartwatches and fitness gear, but the CEO of Myant, this year's Best of Innovation honoree for fashion tech with its revolutionary textiles and clothing that integrates AI to monitor health conditions across the entire life cycle, says that it's more than something gimmicky.
It's going to go to a very serious level of relationship between humans, all humans, and fitness and health, all of them in one, because we're all wearing textile all the time.
And with an increasingly large market for pet products, pet tech is another fast-growing sector. This year's Best of Innovation honoree in pet tech, Pawport, aims to address what pet owners want for their pets, such as comfort and safety for both.
Pets are a big part of everybody's family. Everybody loves their pets. We've got all this tech for our kids and everyone else, but people are trying to bring convenience and safety and fun into the pet space, which is important for a lot of people.
As CES 2025 unfolds, it's clear that this year's event is more than just a showcase of cutting-edge technology, but a glimpse into how innovation is shaping the way we live, work, and connect with the world around us. 문혜련, Arirang News, Las Vegas.
The first cold wave warning this winter has been issued for Seoul as extreme cold of -12 degrees is expected both tomorrow and Friday. Cold wave warnings are expanded to the northern parts of Chungcheongbuk-do province and the mountainous areas of northern parts of Gyeongsang-buk-do province. Meanwhile, with heavy snow advisories in place in southern parts of Chungcheongnam-do and northern parts of Jeollabuk-do provinces, about 10 centimeters of snow has already fallen. In addition, up to 30 centimeters more snow is expected in Jeollabuk-do province and the mountainous areas of Jeju Island until Friday. Tomorrow, Chuncheon will start off at -15 degrees, -11 degrees for Daejeon. Highs will move up to -7 in Seoul and Chuncheon, Daegu at -3 degrees. More snow and rain will continue until Friday in the Jeollado provinces and Sunday on Jeju Island. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.
How to survive in Korea. One room. So, you're surviving in Korea if you've signed a contract for a one room, obviously you're a pro. But the real deal begins now. Step 1. Housewarming. No need to buy toilet paper, diffusers or hand soap. You'll get them soon enough as housewarming gifts. And some are bound to pile up. There's nothing better to serve your guests than milpaeyu nabe. If you have Korean friends coming over, don't forget the extra garlic. Step 2. Garbage disposal. With great power comes great responsibility. You've had a good time, so let's get to work. It might be tempting to sweep everything into a trash can, but you have to separate your garbage. Not bothered? Beware that negligence is punished with a fine or public humiliation. Step 3. Drying rack. You're excited to live alone in Korea, but the fate of these items, hanger, storage, or a hanger. Go get fresh coffee outside. Jogging doesn't cost anything, and nothing beats instant rice. But keep one item around so that you don't get too lonely. Step 4. Pros of living alone. No mum. Cons of living alone. No mum. A new towel doesn't magically appear. You have to do the laundry regularly. If anyone gives a towel as a souvenir, take it. Get rid of mold immediately. Don't be lazy with the vacuum cleaner. Housework is an endless affair. Overwhelmed? Give your mum a call and thank her for everything she's done. Did you survive in your one room? Wait, you have an unwanted visitor. Call someone you fancy. Could be the right person for the job.
It's go time.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring you today's most pressing issues from across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gen. North Korea confirmed a successful test firing of a new intermediate-range ballistic missile on Tuesday, marking the regime's first such provocation this year. The North State media says the missile, equipped with a hypersonic warhead, traveled approximately 1,500 kilometers at speeds of up to 12 times the speed of sound. It says the advanced missile system will provide a reliable deterrent against rivals in the Pacific region. The missile test comes at a time of significant political instability in neighboring South Korea, following President Yoon Suk-yeol's imposition of martial law and his subsequent impeachment by the National Assembly. It also comes just 2 weeks ahead of the official inauguration of the second Donald Trump administration in the U.S. So for a closer look into the issue, we are joined by our go-to North Korea expert, Dr. Ko Myung-hyun, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Strategy. Welcome, Dr. Go.
Thanks for having me.
And also joining us is Mark Barry, Associate Editor Emeritus at the International Journal on World Peace. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, happy to be with you, and Happy New Year to you both.
Happy New Year. Now, let's start with Dr. Barry. So first, the launch came on the same day of the foreign ministerial meeting that was held between Seoul and Washington. How would you read into the timing of North Korea's latest provocation, and what kind of message do you think the regime is trying to convey?
I don't think it's trying to convey a message as much as it's trying to adhere to a scientific timetable, as one of your guests on your morning show said the other day. It's doing what testing is necessary, but they surely took into account the timing of Secretary Blinken's final South Korean visit. And also, let's keep in mind that today is reportedly Kim Jong-un's birthday. Whether he's 41, 42, apparently January 8th is the date that he was born. And I think a test had to occur before such an important day, and it would be that much more meaningful if it was a success. However, North Korea does predictably exaggerate, and even if it doesn't quite meet the parameters that it had announced, it may be good enough for internal North Korean purposes, but I think for public purposes, they like to exclaim that it achieved far more than it may have actually achieved.
Right, so it's more of a domestic interest, the timing of which. So let's get into the details of the latest missile. Dr. Go, what is a hypersonic missile in the first place, and how is it different from conventional ballistic missiles that we've been seeing in the past?
Well, there are many different types of, there are two major types of hypersonic missiles. In this particular case, we are talking about the hypersonic glide vehicle. So what it means is essentially the missile side is in fact borrowed from a conventional ballistic missile component. So if you check out the footage provided by the North Koreans themselves, the missile is launched just like any other ballistic missile. But what differentiates this particular weapon system from a conventional, quote-unquote, conventional ballistic missile is the end stage. The topmost, the warhead side of the missile is clearly looks different from other ballistic missiles. You can see that it has a triangular shape, it has some wing. So this is the glide component of the hypersonic missile. So what it means is that the terminal stage of the missile, when the missile actually comes back to the ground, comes back to Earth, the vehicle is essentially able to achieve the so-called hypersonic speed. In this particular case, it actually the vehicle can reach the speed up to 12 times the speed of sound, or Mach 12. So, and then the reason why the vehicle is able to achieve this speed is because of the particular shape of the missile itself. And oftentimes, this hypersonic glide vehicle actually includes very cutting-edge components, and also as guiding systems. And the primary purpose of developing this kind of weapon systems, by countries like North Korea, is to defeat the missile defense systems. So missile defense systems are very good. We have seen this in action in the Middle East. But then these missile defense systems are customized to fend off attacks using conventional ballistic missiles that has very predictable trajectory, which is oftentimes parabolic. But then with the hypersonic glide vehicles, they don't follow follow the usual parabolic the trajectory of a conventional ballistic missiles. It can change trajectories, it can change altitude, and also has a very high speed, which makes it very difficult for the missile defense system to intercept. So, and then this is the reason why North Korea, in addition to having developed many different types of ballistic missiles with different ranges and capabilities and payloads, is developing this hypersonic glide vehicles, because North Korea wants to defeat the ever-evolving missile defense systems that South Korea, United States, in addition to Japan, are trying to implement in this part of the world.
Right, so alongside its difficulty to intercept and its high speed, let's also talk about the distance. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff says the missile flew about 1,100 kilometers before falling into the East Sea, while Pyongyang says it went 1,500 kilometers. If this was true, it would mark the furthest distance covered by a North Korean hypersonic missile. Dr. Go, what does this signal about its capability, and how much of a big development is it?
So North Koreans, when they announced the quote-unquote success of the latest hypersonic missile launch, they explained that this time around they tested a new component. In this case, they claim that they are using carbon fiber composite materials. This represents a huge leap in terms of development of this kind of missiles. Carbon fiber components is lighter. It's also more resistant to heat, more durable. So in that sense, it actually represents the holy grail of ballistic missiles. And in addition, North Korea claims that their latest missile system, which is called the Hwasong-16 Na variant, has reached a range of 1,100 kilometers, whereas 1,500 kilometers, whereas the military authorities of South Korea, United States, and Japan, they have a consensus that the North Korean missile didn't reach that distance. In fact, it fell short by 400 kilometers or so, over 1,100 kilometers. So as Mark has pointed out earlier, North Korea has this pattern of exaggerating their technological achievements. But then if you evaluate the North Korean claim not based on the different distance that the both sides have observed. So if you compare the North Korea's missile test to the previous one, in fact, North Korea made substantial progress in this case. The last time North Korea tested the hypersonic ballistic missile that had a very similar shape and system, also technology, it reached the distance of 800 kilometers or so, according to the South Korean and American U.S. military authorities. But then North Korea claimed that, and the last time North Korea's hypersonic missile reached the distance 1,100 kilometers. So just looking at the different metrics, whether you trust the North Korean claims or not, it's clear that North Koreans made substantial progress in terms of range. So independent of what the truth is in this case, in terms of range of this missile system, what it represents is it's a progress. So we don't know whether North Korea has been able to incorporate the cutting-edge technology of using carbon fiber-based composite materials, which likely comes from Russia. Nonetheless, range alone shows that North Korea is making progress in this domain of hypersonic missiles as well.
Right. Now let's circle back to the foreign ministerial meeting. Secretary Blinken warned about North Korea potentially receiving advanced military technologies from Russia. Dr. Go, what kind of technologies was he referring to? And do you think they could accelerate the North's missile and nuclear capabilities more?
Well, absolutely. Secretary Blinken mentioned that according to the intelligence that the United States government has obtained, it's likely that Russia supplied North Korea with military satellite technology. But then what's interesting is that I think that the U.S. government has been very conservative in confirming the technology transfer that might likely has taken place between Moscow and Pyongyang, because a lot of experts, including myself, I think I'm sure Dr. Berry also agrees with this. We have been speculating for a long time that military satellite technology, the essentially the spy satellite technology is the particular type of technology Russia has likely supplied North Korea in exchange for the munitions and the soldiers that North Korea sent to Russia in order to assist Russia in its war against Ukraine. So, but then now Secretary Blinken is essentially confirming what a lot of experts have been suspecting for a long time. This piece of technology clearly helps North Korea in terms of developing its strategic capability. But on the other hand, it's not really about, say, offensive side of North Korea's missile and nuclear program. What I mean by this is developing more reliable or like a bigger rockets or missile systems by North Korea. So this is more of a surveillance technology. So it helps North Korea with strategic capability of observing what the United States and South Korean militaries can do. But on the other hand, he hasn't confirmed one of the worst fears that the experts on North Korea have, which is Russia supplying North Korea with the latest and greatest technology in intercontinental ballistic missiles, which remains to be seen.
Then what about Dr. Berry? How do you think this coordination between Russia and North Korea would influence the regime's military and nuclear strategy moving forward?
Putin wants to keep Kim on a short leash, which is to adhere to the letter of the agreement from June's visit when Putin went to Pyongyang, to give him what he thinks is the letter of the agreement of what Kim asked for, at least as interpreted by Putin. And so I think the space and satellite technology, many analysts have always felt that this was the most likely type of product that Russia would provide. It may not even be the 21st century latest and greatest technology. Some of it may be from the 80s and the 90s. But this is what Putin has chosen to give to Kim in exchange for the supply of weapons that could be used in the Ukraine war, but at the same time not to supply North Korea with any weapons that could be then alleged to have been supplied by Russia to potentially be used against the ROK or Japan. So I think basically he's playing it very, very, careful with Kim. Kim will always ask for more, but at some point I think Putin expects Kim to back down and go on to the next thing.
So less destructive weapons we're seeing. But Blinken highlighted that President Putin may be nearing a point where he could tolerate North Korea's nuclear weapons development. Then, Dr. Berry, how would you interpret this potential shift in Russian policy? And could this lead to a deeper alliance between North Korea and Russia?
Putin's already said, actually, in 2024 that when asked, I think, at one of his long press conferences, that North Korea's nukes are for self-defense. I think basically when the North Korean experts committee was disbanded, was not renewed because of Russian and Chinese action at the UN Security Council, that was the occasion when Putin said so. So he's basically saying that, yes, these weapons are considered by Russia to be for self-defense. But in reality, North Korea is knee-deep in assisting Putin with both munitions and troops, and reportedly, according to the New York Times at least, it was North Korea that offered to Putin to send troops. And according to President Zelensky the other day in his one of his 3-hour interviews with a YouTube podcaster, he said 1/3 of North Korean troops have experienced casualties, either dead or injured. So I think Russian DPRK military cooperation will be relatively short-lived, and especially if a ceasefire or some sort of deal is reached in the early months of the Trump administration.
Now, during the meeting, Blinken also stressed that North Korea's provocation highlights the need for strengthened trilateral cooperation with Japan, adding that combined defense postures such as the Nuclear Consultative Group will continue. Dr. Go, how important is the role of the NCG in enhancing deterrence capabilities?
So we have to, first of all, differentiate between the trilateral cooperation between Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo from the nuclear consultative group, because the latter, the nuclear consultative group, is a bilateral mechanism between Seoul and Washington. Japan is not part of it yet, at least. So I think Secretary Blinken, in his last tour of the region before he leaves office, essentially wanted to highlight one of the key essential achievements of the Biden administration when it comes to the Northeast Asia, which is the historical agreement between Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington in Camp David in terms of agreeing to cooperate very closely when it comes to not just about regional security, but also in other domains such as economic security and also as the maritime security in the region. So he wanted to highlight this. And of course, having the three countries together, instead of the United States mediating between Seoul and Tokyo, and Seoul and Tokyo not speaking to each other, having this very close and tight, essentially a bilateral relations between Seoul and Tokyo, it has a huge potential deterrence impact on North Korean behavior. We see a practical, essentially immediate dividends in the deterrence in the form of better information sharing between Seoul and Tokyo. And this is important because the basic foundation of a very effective missile defense system in the region relies on the sensor integration, meaning radar integration between Seoul and Tokyo, as well as the United States, which makes very difficult for the North Koreans to defeat the missile defense in the region, and it actually benefits everybody here, not just South Korea, Japan, but also the United States, and probably even Taiwan. So also it carries an important deterrence effect on China, as well as Russia. China and Russia have been conducting joint air patrols in East Sea, which threatens South Korea and Japan. So I think this is a very important mechanism and clearly has to survive the political turmoil that Seoul is undergoing right now, and then especially also as well as the change of administration in Washington. So I think Secretary Blinken wanted to highlight this because this is very critical for the continuation of the better security situation in the region. In addition, the nuclear consultative group, this is really about the achievement between the Yoon administration and the Biden administration, especially for Yoon, because this has really strengthened the deterrence against North Korea's nuclear threat. Because unlike previous instances of the United States plan to defend off North Korea's nuclear threat, which wasn't detailed, didn't really carry much of a credibility because there's not much information about it, and then also didn't really. South Korea wasn't perceiving the U.S. commitment to defend South Korea against North Korea's nuclear threat credible because of lack of information. But through the Nuclear Consultative Group, or NCG, United States has been able to explain what the United States can do to defend South Korea against North Korea's missile threats through the tabletop exercises, as well as better information sharing and explanation of what the United States will do, as well as having an effective operational plan to fend off North Korea's nuclear threats. So these are all measures to increase credibility and assurance for Seoul, and I think has been very effective. And I think it's very important that the incoming Trump administration continues with this commitment.
Right, so we couldn't stress more the importance of these joint efforts. Now, Blinken's latest visit is seen as a farewell visit before Donald Trump returns to office. Dr. Berry, do you think the so-called ironclad alliance between Seoul and Washington would continue under the new administration, and what could be done to maintain such ties?
I think it's the last time we're going to hear the word ironclad. You heard it from Tony Blinken, and that was it. I think by having acting presidents and a drawn-out, contentious political process, South Korea has put itself at a great disadvantage just days before Trump's second inauguration. And Trump may soon claim that the ROK is playing domestic political games under the protection of U.S. troops on its soil. And Trump, in my view, could say the U.S. is, quote, tired of being taken advantage of, unquote, and threaten a drawdown or total pullout of U.S. troops. Now, considering how bluntly he spoke at his Mar-a-Lago press conference yesterday, which Politico this morning is calling MAGA meets Manifest Destiny, Trump could directly intervene with both acting President Che and the opposition leader or the Speaker of the National Assembly
and say, give me the phone, I'm going to call these people, and I'm going to convey what I expect to be done to quickly resolve the situation. I have a right to do so because it's my troops that are based on South Korean soil. So at the same time, to be fair, I've checked all of his Truth Social messages. I have transcripts of his press conference yesterday and other remarks he's given, and I can't find any public reference that Trump has made to South Korea. So I think he's taking a wait-and-see attitude. So in fairness, you know, I'm sticking my neck out, but I feel, particularly after yesterday, quite confident to say that the U.S.-ROK alliance, whatever may happen, will not ever be the same again. A silver lining is that Trump publicly has recognized that South Korea's huge shipbuilding and repair capacity is likely going to be needed by the U.S. Navy as soon as possible because the U.S., Trump says, has lost the capability to build and repair ships like it used to.
All right. Now, Dr. Go, very briefly, do you think these kinds of provocations by North Korea would continue until the Trump inauguration?
Well, Dr. Berry remarked earlier in the beginning of this program that the motivation behind North Korea's latest provocation, the launch of the hypersonic light vehicle in Hwasong-16 variant, wasn't really driven by the motivation to irritate the United States or warn the incoming Trump administration. It was probably driven by more and more domestic factor, and I fully agree with that assessment. And I think North Koreans have been testing or carrying out the missile provocations so often with many different types of missiles that in a way it's been normalized in the view of the international community what North Korea does with missile launches. So what North Korea has done and this time doesn't really raise up to the level of precipitating an international crisis. Clearly, we are taking North Korean behavior as their usual behavior now, so it should be normalized. Mm-hmm. So I think this kind of behavior by North Korea will continue, and especially because their behavior is probably driven by the technological objective of incorporating the new technologies that they possibly receive from the Russians. I think that's why North Korea highlighted the use of the composite materials in the latest hypersonic missile test. So I think this kind of test provocation, low-level quote-unquote provocation will continue. But then at the same time, I don't think North Koreans are going to engage in so-called red line provocations such as a nuclear test. Because I think North Koreans, in a way, they've been expecting Trump to return to the White House because North Korea wants to engage in dialogue with Trump. And also, as President Trump has made a remark several times, that's also his intention. So I think North Koreans are going to cap their provocation at this level for the foreseeable future.
All right. I'm afraid we'll have to leave our discussion right here. Many thanks for your insights, Dr. Go and Dr. Berry. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.